One. Hi, everyone, and welcome. Hi, Katja. Welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Hello. Thank you for having me today.
Awesome. So today we're going to be chatting about the nervous system. We're going to be talking about reprogramming the nervous system in our equine patients. And I'm really excited about this because it's something that I am very interested in. I was just saying to Katja, as a student, the nervous system was something that I kind of really avoided and shied away from. It's very intimidating, really. And now kind of realizing that every patient is a neurological patient and the nervous system is always involved and always affected. It's quite exciting, actually, to take a bit of a different approach where we're thinking more about how we can influence and work with that nervous system. So if you're joining us live today, it's amazing to have you with us. I want to invite you to please join the conversation. Let us know where you're from, introduce yourselves in the comments. Let us know what your interest is in the nervous system and what your kind of learning journey has been. Were you also in the beginning very intimidated by the nervous system and kind of avoided thinking about it? Guys, welcome. If you're joining us live, it's so great to have you. Please join the conversation. So Katja, please introduce yourself and your interest in our subject today.
Well, hello, everyone. It's nice to see everyone. So my name is Katja Prenta. I am an equine body worker from Slovenia. And I did my original certification with equinology back in 2012. And since then, I've just been on the hunt for new techniques, new modalities, new ways to help horses, really, because as soon as you start working as a new body worker, there are horses you can help, and then there are horses you can't. So then you get another tool for your toolbox, another modality, and then the number of horses you can help increases, and then you just keep doing that and just adding into your toolbox. So yeah, since I did my original certification, I did a lot of other modalities as well. I did the sports massage for people, so it was very interesting to get the human aspect of it. And then I did stuff like different myofascial releases, dry needling, mobilization techniques, that works. So and then the more you expand, the more you know, and the more you know you don't know. So it's a never-ending journey. But I think the thing that really hit home for me was that still, even if I have all these tools and everything, I'm still limited because you still need to have a good hoof person, a good saddle fitter, a good trainer. So it really literally takes a village. And I think that's so important, the cooperation between the different professionals to actually bring the horse back into health, back into work, and to help them be a happy and healthy athlete. So my other passion, apart from adding tools to my toolbox, is education. So I really love educating people. I love writing articles, doing lectures, seminars, everything. I very often do them along with other equine professionals because I feel like that really brings a broader understanding, a broader spectrum of ways we can help horses. So I love doing that. Yeah, that's kind of, I recently launched a website called The Functional Horse, which is kind of where my path of educating people is taking me. But I think we'll talk about that more in the end. Yeah, so that's a brief intro from me. This is who I am.
Amazing. I love your never stop learning attitude. And I love that you've spoken about education, because that's one of the best ways to learn as well, is to just teach people. It's different for some of us. It's really difficult. I find it quite intimidating to educate, but also exciting because it really makes you understand the subject much better. So that's amazing. Hi to Hannah. It's great to have you join us. If you guys are live with us, I see we have quite a few people online. Please say hi, join the conversation. Feel free to ask questions or share your experiences at any time. We're really here to have that conversation with all of you. That's why we use Facebook, so that we can chat to you guys. So let's talk about reprogramming the nervous system. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so like you said, the nervous system can be a very intimidating subject. because it's this big complex system that even science doesn't quite understand completely. So you're just kind of afraid of it, you steer clear of it, you do your muscles, you do your fascia, and you don't talk about the nervous system. So yeah, it can be very intimidating. But then as soon as you delve into some research on fascia, especially the newer research, you really see how connected everything is, and that you can't not work with the nervous system. Because basically, whenever you are touching the horse, whenever you're doing anything with it, you are communicating with the nervous system. So I today what I wanted to share with you was how I look at reprogramming the nervous system. There are many ways of doing it because, like we said, everything we do is going to influence it. But I like to think of it in my work as a body worker in 3 levels. So in the first level, what we are doing, we are basically unknowingly communicating with the nervous system while we are working with the horse. So when we're working with the muscles, with the tissue, with the fascia, we are already talking to the nervous system, because fascia is so richly innervated. I think it's now known that it's the most innervated tissue. It's better innervated than the skin and the eyes and everything. And it has different types of receptors. It has everything from Pacini fibers to Ruffini fibers to free nerve endings. So it's really a large array of sensory information that's getting passed back and forth through the fascia. And a lot of these receptors respond to mechanical pressures or mechanical stresses. So it literally, when you're working with the fascia, when you're releasing it, when you are getting rid of the adhesions and making it more soft, you are literally influencing the way those nerve endings will be talking to the brain. So you're influencing the signaling. So I think that's kind of the level 1 of influencing the nervous system. And you do it knowingly or unknowingly, and you don't have to be particularly aware of it to do it. You just do it.
I'd love to actually interject there, because I think you've kind of answered my question in that last statement, but has that realization or that knowledge changed the way that you're working on the fascial system? Because to me, it's been very profound, just the realization that I want to be working with the nervous system and I want to be influencing those changes. I want to be creating those changes. Even if the only thing that's changed is my intention of how I'm touching the horse, there's been a change. How has that knowledge changed how you're touching your horse, or patient, I should say?
Yeah, you're completely right. That awareness does bring change, doesn't it? I feel like what changed with me is particularly the listening part, so that you're listening more to the tissue and what's happening in the tissue. So it's not just like, oh, I'm applying this technique and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. It's more like, okay, what happens if I do this? What happens if I hold for a bit longer? And like, how does it feel? And you also, when you're doing that, you're observing the horse's reaction as well. And that gives you the feedback. So I feel like it has become less of a, I'm doing this to you, and more of a, I'm doing this with you. We're having a conversation.
I love that. I love that. I agree. That's been a big thing for me as well on my journey, is that flip. I remember it so clearly from when I was doing to my patients to when I was very much more actively listening to their feedback and the feedback under my hands from what we were doing, and it became more of a conversation. Okay, so that was your level 1. What would level 2 be?
Okay, so in level 2, I feel like everyone's had this, has had patients that you work on them, you release everything, they feel great, it feels soft, they go back to work, and then a month later you see them again, and it's the same thing.
Exactly.
They're tight again.
Yeah.
And the change wasn't long lasting. And I feel like often this is because when you're done with them and they have a little break or whatever, and then eventually they go back to work and they work with the same saddle, same rider, same situation, same environment, basically, that triggers the same dysfunctional movement. So I feel like sometimes with these horses, it's really important to show them their new range of motion. So it's not just releasing everything and let the horse figure it out. It's more like release everything and then, or whatever needs to be released, and then show the horse that the place that used to be painful isn't painful anymore. Because so often horses, when they have pain, when they remember a certain position to be painful, they will avoid it. And even after you've released that area, they might still avoid it. So what I like to do is, after I finished with the releasing, I like to just have a bit more, again, a conversation with the nervous system. So where I'm actively showing the horse, okay, look, this is your new range of motion, and this is comfortable. You can relax here. And I feel like the how we do this is really the important bit, because it's not like, for example, if we have a horse that is painful in his lower neck and kind of stiffens through the last couple of cervical vertebrae to avoid motion in that area, I wouldn't just go grab him by the halter, bend his neck, and be like, see, now we can go here, fine. You know, it's more about bringing the horse into a certain position and then asking him if he can relax there. So it's not saying, can you do this? It's saying, can you do this and find it comfortable? So a very specific technique that I like to implement is just gentle rocking motions. I feel like they just do wonders for the nervous system. So if we stick with the lower neck example, I would take the vertebra between my hands and then just slowly start to rock it back and forth. And oftentimes, if this area was painful, the horse will brace, because they will be, no, this was painful, don't want to do it. And the key thing here is to stay below the brace. So you're doing it just ever so slightly so that you can barely notice, but as long as the horse doesn't brace, it's fine. And then sooner or later, the horse is like, oh, this is okay, actually. And he relaxes. And when he does, you can try and introduce a slightly greater range of motion, wait for him to relax there. And I find that horses really, really respond well to this type of work, where they're actually figuring out, like, oh, this is comfortable now. Not only not painful, but comfortable. So I think that's the big difference.
I love that. Okay, so step 2 is kind of bringing in, you're still standing, the horse is still standing, but you're bringing in some movement to show, a greater range of motion, to show the change, and to ask if they can find that comfortable and if they can relax enough. I really love that. Okay, I love that. So what is step 3?
Okay, and then step 3 is basically just taking the step 2 a bit further. So step 3 would be more like active physiotherapy in a way. So you're not, the horse isn't standing still and you are not moving his body parts, but the horse is moving, like in hand or on the lunge, and you are asking him to actively use his body differently. So it's really just subtle changes that you're asking for, like maybe, can you let go of this brace in your neck? Or can you swing your rib cage a bit more freely? Or can you place this hind leg somewhere else? Or, you know, whatever, small questions. And on the outside, it really doesn't look like much, but it's the really small conversation that's so, so, so important. And what I like to do with these sessions is just stick to walk. I find that the slow, deliberate motion just works better, because as soon as you go into trot, as soon as it becomes a faster motion, you're not really influencing, or you're influencing the nervous system in a different way. So it's not so much re-education. I like to think of it as a Feldenkrais exercise, really. With humans, we have Feldenkrais exercises where you also take a body part and slowly discover where the range of motion is. And it involves things like just very basic stuff, like moving your head in one direction and in the other direction, see how it feels. But if you did those exercises fast, if you were just swinging your arms around and moving your head, it wouldn't really have the same effect. So I think with the horses, it's the slow, deliberate work that really does the trick.
I'm so excited about this stuff. I love it. Okay, cool. So we have a few hellos. Hello, Hannah, Leah, Jackie, and Iftikhar. It's great to have you all. And then we have a comment here from Impulse Method. I've been a body worker for over 20 years. I find that specified exercises straight after the release helps with long-term releases more than a couple of days of rest. Yes, the body has to move. I really like that, and I completely agree with you, Katja, to start to bring change through the nervous system. We need to be working with, the cortex of the brain, and that needs slow, very deliberate and thoughtful input. And now it comes, well, okay, in a person you can say, right, turn your head left. Now, well, I'm turning my head right. I'm so bad with directions. Anyway, turn your head right, and what do you feel? Do you feel tension here? What does your shoulder feel like? What does this area feel like? What does that area feel like? So how do we get the horses to think right like that, right? We can ask them, right? If I do this little sway in your lower cervical area, and you're thinking, what does this feel like? Where is it uncomfortable? What does your pole feel like? And I like to think, even if I'm having those thoughts, then maybe the horse is having similar thoughts. Maybe they're not, but at least that intention is there. And if I wanted to be more, take that a little bit further, I could use very light touch, and I could say, hey, while I'm doing this, what does it feel like when I very lightly introduce touch to your pole, or to the top of your wither, or the back of your elbow? In that way, I'm saying, well, brain, think about this area. I'm not doing anything, but just think about what's happening there. And that's kind of where my thinking is going in this, reprogramming the nervous system. We need to bring light touch, so that we're saying, hey, can you think about this area, and then bring that into movement, and then go backwards and forth between those things, and then you're slowly showing the brain something different. That's kind of where my thinking has been going with it. From our audience, guys, please share your thoughts and your experiences. And Katja, do you want to comment on this? Yeah, on this one, this comment.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think it's really important. Yeah, the set of exercises after the release to show them where they can go, and after that, they can also have a couple of days of rest. That's completely fine, because I feel like the brain needs some time to process, and the bigger the pause, the better it processes it. So I do still like to have a little break, but for sure, if you just do the releases and then, I don't know, lock the horse in a stall, rest for 2 days, and then come out, it's definitely not going to hold as well as it would if you, after the release, show the horse how he can move. And that's why I also think it's really important to always have free movement available after doing therapies or any kind of body work, so they can experiment for themselves and see where they can go and where they can't. So I love doing the exercises straight after, as long as they are in a relaxed state. I think that's such an important thing.
Yeah,
If the horse is tense, nothing's going to happen.
No, you can't. Yeah, you can't speak to the brain and the nervous system when there's any stress or anxiety, because that's blocking all that input. I love that. Okay, so I think my next question would be, if we're kind of developing a thought of, right, what happens a little bit for the next few days after you've worked the horse, are you sharing some of these movements with owners for them to carry on with, because that can be even more impactful if we say, well, take a few days of rest, but you're not going to do nothing. You're going to do this very light, very easy work at a walk with your horse, and you're going to be asking these questions of them, and you're going to see what they say for the next few days. Do you do that? And how do you find the owners receive that and are able to implement it? Do they find it quite difficult?
Yeah, exactly. That's the homework is where it's really at. I always kind of say that I do the one part, but then the bigger part of how well your horse will be doing is up to the owner, really. Because it's the repetition, it's the strengthening of the beneficial movement patterns where it's really kind of where it's at. What I love about these nervous system exercises is they're so gentle that you can leave them with owners and not be worried that they will overdo it, or that they might do any harm or anything, because as long as you follow the rule, stay below the brace, it's fine. Everything is good. So I love leaving the owners with that, both with the standing ones, so the level 2 ones, the small gentle rockings, and doing the in-hand work. And I also feel that sometimes some horses have a much easier time relaxing with people they know than with a stranger.
Yes.
So it's much easier for the horse as well. Yeah.
Yes.
What I find is that some people do find it difficult to do things that look like nothing, because they're like, it has to move, it has to do something, it has to be, you know, visible, it has to be a thing. No, it's very gentle. So I think that's probably the biggest obstacle in it, is people wanting more, but it's really very gentle stuff.
Okay, no, that's my same experience for me, is that the biggest challenge for owners is that they feel like they're not doing anything, and then they try and do too much. If you do too much, you're negating the effect, and we're not achieving the goal. And especially if we're thinking about, competitive owners or horses that are in full training or competition, then they don't see the value of those little things, and it very quickly gets passed over or skipped or left out. And then, like you say, we don't actually have change that lasts. You just every month after month are treating exactly the same things, until maybe one day we have an injury or a breakdown or something that says, now we rest and we start again. All right.
Exactly.
Guys, any questions, thoughts, experiences, please share them with us. I really love to know how you guys are influencing the nervous system. How are you working with? Are you even thinking about it? Hannah says my old horse is enjoying his treatments with Katja. Sweet. Okay, how are there other ways that we could think about influencing the nervous system? Because I think that, we have the peripheral nervous system, and we have the central nervous system, and we have the cortex, and we have, the emotions of the horse. So in a way, we're already working with that if we're looking for that relaxation, and we need to have the horse below the brace. Then we're looking at, addressing those emotions and making sure that we stay in a space where the horse is calm and learning and receptive to change. What are some of the other things that we might try if we need more tools in the toolbox?
The cool thing about the nervous system is it's just so you can influence it in so many different ways, so that you never really run out of ideas, as long as you think of some basic rules and follow them. What I also really like about educating the nervous system, especially when we're more talking about rehabilitation after injury, I really like the sensory re-education path that Denois describes in his book, Physical Therapy for the Horse. So it's basically just walking courses on different surfaces. So you have a path that is, 100 meters of sand, followed by 100 meters of pebbles, and then asphalt and whatever. So that every 100 meters, the horse has to be like, oh, okay, this is different now. Okay, this feels different now. And I think that's a really big one. With this one, however, I do feel like it works much better if the hooves are balanced than if they're not. Because as soon as the hooves are not balanced, the information going up to the brain about the surface, I think that will be a bit faulty if you have issues with the hooves, because often it will be just pain, regardless of what surface it is. So I think hoof balance is really important when you're doing sensory educational path, and obviously it's really important in general. So that's one of the things. Most people don't really have access to a proper sensory re-education path, but you can improvise. You can walk your horse on grass a little bit, and then move him to the asphalt, and then move him to gravel, and it's a really cool way to do this. And then we have loads of other tools or aids that we can do. One that I really like is the T-Touch body wrap. So it's the one where the bandage wraps around the body in a very gentle way. So it just brings awareness to where the horse's body parts are. Similar, we have those bracelets that you can put around the fetlocks to bring awareness to one of the hind legs or both the hind legs or whichever leg. So those are really useful tools as well. Anything basically that brings awareness to a body part that the horse has been forgetting about or neglecting because there was pain, there was dysfunction. So this is a way to tell them, like, hey, look, you can use this now. This works now. The only thing that we really have to keep in mind with all of this is to keep it short. This is really intense work. Even though it looks like nothing, for the horse, it's huge. And he needs to be focused. And being really focused on one thing, it needs a lot of energy and it's really difficult. So I would say 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes tops for any of these nervous system exercises. And then you can go and do another thing. You can go for a walk or for a lunch session or whatever. But the nervous system thing, I like to keep very short.
I love that. We have another comment. So less is more. I also do slow rocking movements, but implement other exercises to build up symmetry, strength, and suppleness. Love your walking concept, Katja. So I really like that. Thank you for that comment, because you've introduced symmetry, strength training, and suppleness, which are really important components of what we're doing. And I think if we're working with the nervous system, a big part of that is generally that we're wanting to improve the symmetry, and we're wanting to improve the suppleness or the available range to the body. And then we need to take that and we need to bring it into strength training, so that we can develop strength and stamina in those correct spaces, which is quite exciting, and a whole different kind of thought process. Do you want to comment on that, Katja?
Yeah, exactly like you said. Yeah, so there's a time and place for every type of rehabilitation exercise or protocol, and I also think like building up symmetry and strength, it's key. It really is key, because the horse needs symmetry and strength, and it needs to be supple if it wants to carry a rider. It can't just be like nice and loose and that's it. You need strength. But like you said, that strength needs to come from a correct place, a correct posture. So what we need to do first is teach the horse how to carry himself correctly, how to use his body properly, and then introduce strength training. So he is doing it from a healthy place. So he's not doing it from a place where he's, all crooked or braced and then activating the core muscles, but it has to be, gradual. But it's definitely part of the process, for sure.
Of the process. We have a great question from Urska. Could you explain what you mean by avoiding the brace?
Yes, of course. I never really explained that, did I? So oftentimes when you're working with a horse and the horse has some pain or has had some pain in a certain area, as soon as you touch it or start to work with it, the horse will tense up ever so slightly, because he'll be like, oh, I'm not entirely sure if I want you touching there. It used to hurt, or it hurts, or, so then if you go stronger and if you're like, no, I'm going to do this, I'm going to touch you, the horse will just brace more and more and more. And eventually you end up tensing him even more, creating even more tension. But if your work is so light that the horse doesn't find it threatening, then he can relax, even though you are working in an area that might be a bit scary for him. And then if you stay below the brace so that he's not worried, then eventually he will relax more and let you do more. So you start with very, very gentle things that are non-threatening. And when he says, okay, I could maybe do a bit more, then you ask him for a bit more. So it's just gradually increasing, but it's not so important to increase. It's just gradually going to just experiment with where he is comfortable with, basically. But with his consent, with his permission. So staying below the brace means never continue working if the horse says no.
Yeah. I really like that. I think it is, we don't realize actually what it means to give the horse a choice and to give the horse a voice, because the way that we work with horses, the kind of normal that is normal to us, very much shuts down the horse's thoughts and opinions, and they don't have a choice. And even if you're looking at natural horsemanship, it isn't about giving a horse a choice. It's about increasing the pressure until they cave to your choice. So there's really, it is a very tricky one, and it is a very big mind shift when we realize what that actually looks like and what it feels like when we start having a conversation. And so I like to say, I'm asking a question, and and I'm just looking for an answer to that question, and I will respond to the answer to that question. So it isn't about coming in with the intention of we're going to do this and this and this. It's about coming in to say, hey, can we do this? And if the answer is no, then it's like, well, could we do this? And until you find where that yes is for the horse. And I've just started reading The Body Holds the Score, which is a phenomenal book. So if you guys have read it, put up your hands. I'm like in the first 2 chapters.
It's an exceptional book.
It's exceptional. There's a really good explanation of, the working together of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. And so we know that the sympathetic nervous system is more of like the stress response, not 100% because they're working together all the time. And the parasympathetic is more of the calm, relaxed, rest and digest state. And when we're teaching the nervous system, we need to be in that parasympathetic state. And so the moment you activate a brace in the horse, you're going into that sympathetic state. And because of the way that horses are handled and treated, you actually have like a shutdown happen and you have a disconnect occur with the horse. And so now, the horse is no longer talking back to you and you're not getting that feedback anymore because you've ignored a brace, which was the horse's way of saying, I'm not comfortable. And when you do that, you're communicating to the horse that you're not listening. You are doing to them and you're not doing with them, and you're not there to have that conversation. And it's a very critical thing for us to get right. And it's very difficult because it is completely different from how we work with horses day to day. So I hope that helps, Urska. Right. Okay. We have another question. What is your opinion on meridian lines or acupressure points? Do you also work with them? I love that.
Okay, so to be completely honest, the concept of traditional Chinese medicine I find so daunting that I haven't really delved into that, because I feel like it's one of those things that you need to basically dedicate your life to. It's so vast, it's so huge, it's such a big body of knowledge that I have so far been too scared to take that path, to be completely honest. What I do really, really love is the connection between the fascial meridians and the traditional Chinese medicine meridians, how they kind of overlap. So it's kind of the East and the West coming together. So I really like that. I really like working with the fascia meridians. As far as the actual acupressure or acupuncture goes, I feel like I would need way more training to actually do that, because I don't think it's something you can just do a short course on and start doing it. I think it's something you need to actively study for several years, and I haven't gotten around to it yet. There are so many things to learn. So but I love working with people who use traditional Chinese medicine in their practice, because it's really, the more people you have working on the horse, the better you can be. And I have seen some amazing results from acupressure, from acupuncture. And I think it's just a brilliant modality. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And then, yeah, I mean, you've mentioned there's the traditional Chinese medicine and there's more of a Western approach. And I think that the Western approach is becoming better and more accurate as we're gaining research and knowledge in that area, and as we're kind of understanding that more traditional approach more and more. So it's very exciting. I think if someone wants to learn more about that component from a Western perspective, not from necessarily the traditional perspective, but I'd definitely recommend CuraCore and going through CuraCore to learn more about that, because I think they have some really good information. Okay, Hannah says, I agree with slow work and less is more concepts. My question is, how do we best use these concepts when we are doing faster or more energetic work? Great question, Hannah.
That is a great question. Yeah. So it's the concept is different, really. I think faster and energetic work is definitely necessary in horse training, and it's good because exercise is good, and activating the sympathetic nervous system is not always bad. When we're doing intense work, it is a a sympathetic.
Yes, a sympathetic, yeah.
Type thing, and that's good. But we also then need to come back from it. So what I think the best way to bring together these two concepts is to teach posture while staying in a parasympathetic nervous system, so slow, deliberate, and aware. And then the horse will use what he learned there in the more energetic work, in the more fast training. But when he is in fast training and energetic work, he will be in the sympathetic nervous system. But that's good. That's good. We want that because that brings change, that builds stamina, that builds muscles. And it's this balance that we want. We don't want just the parasympathetic and never the sympathetic. We have both for a reason, and we need to use them. The problem only becomes, and unfortunately this is often the case with horses, that the sympathetic just overrides everything and they're just constantly in the state of stress. So that's why I think we put more emphasis on the parasympathetic nervous system, because most horses are locked in the sympathetic one, but we do need a balance between both.
I love that. It is a balance between both. It's not good and bad. I love that. Impulse says, interesting, because I find acupuncture very good. She doesn't do this because I'm not a vet, but I find acupressure much less effective. So that's, yeah, I think, do you want to comment on that?
I don't really have any experience with that. That's really interesting. What do you think?
I think that I don't know of any research, and I love to be able to say, I read a research article that said, we have had a few interviews on acupuncture and acupressure. Acupressure is effective, but it will be less effective because your action is different. When you have the needle going into the skin and into the flesh, you have there's a needle that's going into the body, so the effect is different. The hormonal effect, the local effect is different from when you're just applying pressure to a point. But pressure to a point is still going to have an effect. We just need to hold it for a little bit longer. So the time that you're applying it for is different. And I think the amount of pressure you're using is different. And with a needle, you have different options. Like sometimes you're twisting and sometimes you're pulling that needle in and out. So you're creating different kind of stimulus within the body. What I can do is, because this is, I don't use acupuncture or actually acupressure, so I'm definitely not the right person, but I can put some links into the video of the interviews that we've had with people about the subject, and that's kind of where I'm talking from now. So I'll put those in for you, and then hopefully that helps you kind of explore that subject a little better. And then Impulse also says her video has ended, and I'm not sure why. I don't know. Can everyone else still see us and hear us? It seems that way. Urska says, I love this mindset. I've been diving into learning theory in horse training, and I'd love to see the shift from demanding something from the horse to asking them and actually listening to them saying no. It's so great you're working with the horse and not against the horse. Thank you, Urska. I really appreciate that, and I think it's becoming more and more accepted. But it's a weird realization when we go, oh, if I'm giving you a choice, I actually have to be okay if the answer is no. That's what it means. And we don't generally come in with that mindset. Yeah. All right. So, Katja, is there anything else that we've missed out before I ask you to share where people can reach you and learn more from you? What have we missed out? Any questions from our audience? Anything you want us to cover and chat about?
Yeah, I think we covered the basics. I think it's very, it's an easy thing as long as you keep it in mind that, like, slow, gentle, relaxed. The horse has to be aware, he has to focus. And then anything you do when he's in that mindset is influencing the nervous system. So it really doesn't have to be that intimidating as, it was. So,
yeah. I love that. Thank you. So where can people reach you, and how can they learn a little bit more from you?
Okay, so you can reach me through Facebook or through email or wherever. So my latest project is The Functional Horse, which is a webpage that's meant to be like a learning platform. So we have a newsletter that goes out every week. If you sign up for it, you get a free article every Tuesday. We also have a YouTube channel that has a couple of short lectures for now and some bodywork techniques that you can try with your horse. But like I said, it's the beginning phase of this project, and I am hoping to grow it way more to be a good resource for everyone hoping to learn. So there's that. So if you want, you can sign up to the newsletter. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also find us on Facebook with The Functional Horse. Feel free to shoot me a message directly on my Facebook profile. It's Equine Bodywork Katja Prenta. I always like to chat. I always like to help if I can, and I always like to collaborate. I think the collaboration between different professionals, between different horse people, that's key. That's really the thing that we need, because no one has all the answers, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, and getting that input, it can be incredible. I love having these conversations actually, because I always get a different perspective, and that is so valuable. And when we go out our profession, our own profession, and we're speaking to fitters or human physio or farriers or vets or anyone outside of our own kind of area, the viewpoints and the perspective can be massive in opening new doors for us. So thank you, Katja, for that. Barbara, yes, the recording will be available. It's on social media, it's on YouTube. You can go onto the Facebook page, either Katja's or our own, and it will be there. And you can watch that recording anytime. If you guys are watching this as a recording after the fact, please feel free to comment, let us know where you are, ask any questions, and we'll come back and answer those in time. But we're here to have a conversation with you, even if it is after the fact. So Katja, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been wonderful. It's so nice to chat with like-minded people and to, learn new things.
Get excited about our thing. Guys, I want to remind you that this year's Vetrehab Summit is on the 10th and 11th of November, and we have Vetrehabbbers and Rika Schultz joining us for a two-day conference, a two-day online conference where we will be going into the myofascial chains, and they're going to be sharing the different lines, how we assess them, how we can influence them and start to work with them, as well as some case examples. So there's basically, I think, 6 hours of case discussions in both canine and equines. I'm very excited about the canine aspect because it isn't something we've been talking about in dogs at all. So join us. Please block those 2 days because it's a live event and we're only going to have recordings available for an extremely short time. Obviously, you want to be live and you want to be able to engage and join in and chat to Vic and Rika while we have them. So thank you, Katja. I hope we're going to see you at the summit.
Yes.
And I'm sure we will chat to you again.
I would love that. Okay. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Amazing. Bye, guys.
Bye.